Hey everybody, Dutch Sense here. 1:48 p.m. Central Time on Friday, November 30th, 2012. And we're looking at a video here. I'm going to put a link down below to this. This is thanks to Lydia and Kula, and this is up in Ohio. A multiple thousand-foot sinkhole opened up and is now filled with water. And I will put the geo-coordinates below so you can go look it up on Google Earth to see where it's occurred. This is the latest development in a series of strange occurrences over the last several months. And for you guys to understand fully what's going on, I'm going to have to put several links down below for you guys to go catch up on all the sinkholes that have developed, specifically the large sinkholes like this one and the other sinkhole down in Bayou Corn, Louisiana. Now, over on my main YouTube page, I've got a link to all the Bayou Corn flyovers and site videos, as well as the Bayou Corn town hall meetings. I encourage you guys to go over and check those out. Also, there's a video I did back in August, and it's gotten something like 300,000 views, and it fully explains the Bayou Corn situation up to August. Now, in August 11th, is when I was giving kind of a projection of where I thought things might go, that the sinkhole is going to further develop. There's nothing there to stop it. And indeed, that's true. The sinkhole in Bayou Corn, Louisiana has developed to a point where it is multiple acres across and just started putting up more oil and natural gas. Let me just take you through here. Here's all the site flyover videos. Okay, and here's the most recent one right here. Let's just go ahead and show you the whole thing there. Okay, you can see fresh oil coming up, new tree stumps, trees falling in, and the sinkhole itself expanding to multiple acres. Now there's a way to view that, and I'm hoping that also the sinkholes in general, all the different stories we've been reporting on, will make their way to this map eventually. But now that you've seen this oil slick, let me take you over to Climate Viewer. And again, links below for all this. Climate Viewer is something that's been put together by Jim Lee, and it's very, very interesting program. So you click on Climate Viewer 3D online, and once the map loads on the left-hand side, you can turn on the facts and statistics for Bayou Corn, Louisiana. Now, this all ties together in one big narrative, which I'm going to get to in a second here, but I want to go ahead and show this to you first. Okay, here's the salt dome disasters. And of course, we've got our BP oil spill out here in the salt domes, which I'll show you right here. This is a good example just to show you what salt domes look like. Okay, but the Bayou Corn situation up here, now all these Mr. Yuck signs are different injection wells. We also have oil wells and other things that are going on here, which we can get into later, or you guys can go poke around and take a look at that. But let me just zoom in on Bayou Corn. Okay, and this is the area in question. Now the sinkhole continues to expand. So this is a shot in, let's see, they don't have a date on here, but I believe this is from September into October. Since then, the sinkhole has collapsed further out into the woods and a little bit further back towards the parking area and other cavern storage areas. So here we go. You can see all the different oil wells are marked in black, the injection wells with the Mr. Yuck signs, and the water wells with the wavy symbols. Now you will see the white lines. Okay, these white lines basically indicate the salt dome complex itself. And let me go ahead and turn off the range rings here. And you can see the whole complex itself spans multiple miles and roughly a couple dozen injection sites and several oil wells. Now the whole area is being pushed up from underneath. And I'll put a link down below for that so you guys can go research this as well. But that's per the official word that it's come up over 65 feet in the last 4 months from underneath. So that's a huge amount of movement to be pressing up from underneath. We have crude oil, which is natural oil, and natural gas, methane, also being forced up through the cracks and crevices, coming out in the rivers, coming out in the bayou, all around. We have bubble sites that have been reported multiple miles away, people with tap water burning multiple miles away, and that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what's going on down here. Now, to understand the whole thing, what's going on, why is this happening? All right, let me take you over to Earthquake 3D. This is a USGS feed of the most recent earthquakes, and I'm going to take this down to 2.5 and greater. over the last 7 days. All right. And you're just going to see a few earthquakes here, and this will look like maybe nothing's been going on here throughout the Midwest. Now, of course, now we have a 3.0 and a 2.5 here in Tennessee, 2.7 in southern Missouri, and what stands out is, of course, is a 4.2 up here in Canada. Now, the West Coast is always cluttered with earthquakes, but now I have to show you a different feed to get a better idea of what's going on. So we go from the NEIC feed to the ANSS feed. And this will show us everything 0.0 and greater in the continental United States. So here we go, we're down to 0.0 and greater, and let's go over the last 14 days. All right, now you really get to see what I'm talking about here. All of these earthquakes extending from the northeast back down here to the south and then curling back up to the Pacific Northwest indicates the edge of the craton, the North American plate. And let me back this out so you can really see it. All right, all of those earthquakes show that the plate itself is being displaced. And the reason it's being displaced is due to an extraordinary amount of movement occurring on the West Pacific. Now, to show that to you, let me just take you over. All right, when you see all of these earthquakes over here, scientists have told us now, we confirmed, that the Indo-Australian plate is breaking apart. Parts are rising, parts are settling, and the amount of movement that's happening off of that, again, this is just the last 14 days, and let me take it to 5.0 and greater just so you can see the large earthquakes only. All right, there we go. 5.0 and greater. When you look at that, that's huge. And then you look over here and you see compensation movement. And then let me take the earthquakes back down. And you see the pressure that's been building on the West Coast and spilling across the edge of the North American plate. Now, unfortunately, when you look at the areas in question that are having the sinkholes, such as Bayou Corn, Louisiana, or up in Ohio, all of those areas fall right upon the edge, the deformed edge of the North American plate. And so as the pressure is building, it's pushing up from underneath, and it's causing a huge amount of movement out on the West Coast and a large amount of movement at all of these locations to the east. Now, ironically, for instance, this 2.5 here, that's in blue, that's at a fracking operation at the border of New Mexico and Colorado. And then you come in here and you look at the earthquakes that have happened in Oklahoma. Those are at fracking operations in Oklahoma. You go due south from there, and you have the 2.3 here. That's at the Texas fracking operation. And then you come up here to Arkansas, where there are no earthquakes marked for the last 2 weeks. However, if you go back just a little bit, you'll find large fracking earthquakes that have since died off since they put a moratorium on the drilling there. And then when you come back down here to the south, again, if you go look at these locations, they are all at either quarry or fracking locations. Now, once you get to the northeast, it gets a little bit more difficult. And again, this is something that you probably would need to do on a daily basis, is to go look up these coordinates for the earthquakes to figure out where they're happening. So overall, when you look at this massive movement that's been occurring, it's no wonder that we're going to be seeing large sinkholes developing along the edge of the North American plate. Finally, let me take you over to my Facebook page. All right, and I'll put a link down below for this. This is, let me take you over to the public version. And I post everything on my multiple pages here. Okay, this is what you'll see if you come over. And if you start scrolling down, you're going to notice something over the past couple weeks that I've started to cover, which is explosions. Now, there's been a series of explosions. You've most likely heard about a few of them in Massachusetts, possibly down a couple weeks ago down in Louisiana when the bunker exploded and they tried to blame it on a meteor. Well, that's just a couple stories out of several hundred, I would say, that have appeared over the last few weeks. For instance, yesterday, 6,500 barrel tank of oil exploded in California. A house exploded last night at Devil's Lake. Several explosions, too many to name here. You have to scroll down and you will not believe the amount of explosion stories that are popping up. And they all have pretty much one thing in common: gas explosions. Whether it's fuel or whether it's natural gas, we're seeing a huge amount of explosions happen all around the world. We had 3 back-to-back coal mine explosions in China and Russia over this past week. So that to me is a sign that something is going on with the ignition of gases. Something's changing. Or possibly, and this is a conspiracy that's going on the internet, is that we are at some kind of conflict with someone and they are using energy devices to trigger these gas explosions. That's on the conspiracy realm. Right now, there's still too much happening to figure out what's going on completely. There's no way to know yet. I do know that a lot of these people are involved with digging, whether it's a coal mine explosion or kids digging in the backyard to have a fire pit or natural gas workers digging and working. Okay, so that is a common trait between all. It's a lot going on. The explosions, the sinkholes, the earthquake uptick, and, well, Lord knows what else is going on weather-wise right now. We have a superstorm coming in supposedly on the west coast, and it did produce a few possible tornadoes. But I urge you to go down through all of these stories here and go look at these explosions. Here's the tanker explosion. This was on November 23rd, so a week ago. And it just keeps on going and going and going. And it's not like last year we had this amount of explosion stories. So we had the same social networks available last year: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, websites, blogs, and the amount of explosions that happened last year compared to what's going on this year is a huge, significant increase in the amount of explosions that are happening. Okay? Here's one that happened in St. Louis. We had two in the past 2 weeks, two explosions, DeSoto, Missouri, and in Florissant, Missouri. That's here where I live. And one other thing that I didn't get to bring to your attention over the last couple weeks, on November 21st, one of my viewers sent me this. And this is down in the Louisiana-Mississippi border region. And I'm going to go ahead and pause it here for a second. But what we had were a series of fires, if you will, that were popping up. But it wasn't like a typical wildfire. The smoke appeared to be coming out of the ground and causing fires to pop up, something like you'd see in a marsh burning. So let me just go ahead and pause that here. You'll start to see just little spots that are giving off just a little bit of flame coming out of the ground. Yet it's a marshy type area that it's almost like a bog burning from underneath. And she was very concerned and said that this is very strange. Now, the same woman the day before went and investigated a house that exploded down in Louisiana. Natural gas explosion, just another of several dozen that have happened. Overall, folks, I'm still formulating an opinion as to what I think is going on here, but to me, it looks like there's an ignition problem that's happening, whether it's a static buildup, whether we're seeing some kind of frequency increase that's causing this, I don't know yet. It could be natural for all I know. There could be some kind of natural increase in electromagnetism that's causing a static discharge buildup that's causing gas to ignite. Who knows? We all need to look into this and try to formulate a hypothesis on what's going on. There's too many explosions happening, in my opinion, to overlook now as just being coincidence. Okay? I hope that helps, folks. The links are down below. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them down below, and I'll be doing an update. If more of this happens, you can bet I'll do another update on it. And again, if you live near any one of these sinkhole areas, have a plan and be prepared to leave just in case. If Bayou Corn does any kind of large outgassing or any kind of explosion there, there's, well, large population centers right downwind that need to be prepared. Baton Rouge, New Orleans. That is something you have to worry about, is the debris that comes out of that. Now, luckily in Ohio, I believe it's just cornfields that have collapsed, and next to that, I believe, is another lake complex. So the threat of explosion there is small, but we don't know yet. We don't know what's causing it. We don't know if there's a methane uplift underneath there. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, folks? Cheers. Much love.